opportunity to go through the content of the speech, I am of the opinion that the first aspect, as it pertains to Dr. Armstrong level allegations and being himself careful, I did not find that in any way violated the standing orders. A reference is thereafter made to officials of a company, and the words that I quote, "They are probably to convince himself and the rest of his party that the police of the government still gave contracts to companies owned by Afro-Guyanese. I can assure the Honourable Minister that it has become difficult not to see some degree of race baiting by the accusation of being racist, and a desperate attempt to whip up some degree of sympathy among a particular race of the Guyanese people." I do find that last paragraph to be uncalled for. I believe that it does raise the specter of racism within this House, and it does suggest that a member of this House is or practices racism, and it is a specific standing order that we are not to imply or seek in any way to suggest that any member is less than honorable. For that reason, I would, Mr. Clark, ask that paragraph, beginning with the word naming and ending with the word guiding population, be expunged. Thank you. I have a second ruling, and that has to do with a formal letter of complaint that I received from another member, Mr. Keith Scott, pertaining to news items carried by iNews and thereafter by the Guyana Chronicle, in which Mr. Scott was labeled or described as having saying that mining was quote unquote destroying Guyana and the environment was being raped. I have had again the benefit of both the audio and the written transcript of what Mr. Scott said, including as well the ability and the opportunity to read the iNews report and the Guyana Chronicle report. And I do find that both have violated Mr. Scott's privileges as a member of Parliament, because at no time did he use the word destroy, and in both stories the word destroy suggesting that he's being quoted directly and that he raped, that mining is raping our society. I have prepared a ruling which I will circulate, and in which I call on both publishers to issue an unqualified apology to the member and to retract their stories, and to give both apologies and retractions equal prominence to which they carry their stories against him, and that this should be done forthwith. And I hope nothing else comes of the matter. I wish to say as well that just before coming out this afternoon, I have received a letter from iNews in which they have acknowledged that the context was wrong, and so I applaud, in fact, the publishers of iNews for taking that stand, and I think that is the way, the direction in which we should be going. And if something ought not have been said in a certain way, we should recognize it, accept it, and move on. And so I believe that this could be the end of the matter, because I have, as I said, received a letter, and I applaud, in fact, the stand which I think is a dignified stand taken by iNews to acknowledge the manner in which the reporting was done left much to be desired. But I do still find, as I said, that Mr. Scott's privileges as a member of this House were violated, and Mr. Scott will advise further, but notwithstanding the letter written to me, I still believe that published apologies and the retraction must be given, and those should be given forthwith. Those are two announcements pertaining to matters before us. A third is on more somber note, and that is to announce what. The third is on a more somber and solemn note, and that is to have the House observe that a former member of this House, esteemed member of society, Dr. Reverend David Bisnoff, passed unexpectedly last evening. He was a gentleman, a man of the cloth, serving the Lutheran Brethren of Guyana. I'm informed that Dr. Bisnoff, Reverend Bisnoff, a former minister of the government, died, as I stated. He probably became a parliamentarian in the 6th Parliament of Guyana and was designated Senior Minister of Education and Culture and Cultural Development with effect from the 13th of October 1992, following the general and regional elections of the 5th of October 1992. Dr. Bisnock also served in the 7th Parliament and the 8th Parliament, and in the 8th Parliament was designated Minister of Labour, Human Services and Social Security with effect from the 12th of April 2001. The general and regional elections, following general and regional elections being held on the 19th of March 2001. He ceased to be a minister with effect from the 2nd of May 2006, and we remember him for his contribution not only to this House, to the body of Christ, but also, of course, to academia, as he was also a renowned historian. In honor of his memory, I ask that we stand and observe 1 minute silence as a mark of respect for the community.
Dr. Bisnock was indeed a renowned historian, lectured in the University of Guyana, Dean of Studies at the Theological College in the West Indies. Not only was he a historian, he was a theologian, and his work on the immigration of Indians in Guyana, I think, is a landmark study which should be required reading in all of our schools. And as a theologian, he also wrote extensively on religions in the West Indies. So, Partnership for National, we'd like to extend the to his family, and of course to the Peace Progressive Party, which he served so faithfully between 1990 and 2006.
Thank you very much. I'd like to extend our appreciation to you, sir, and to the honorable leader of the opposition for the condolences extended to us. Minister Dr. Dale Bisnock had been one of the civic members who joined with the People's Progressive Party, answering the call of Dr. Chetty Jagan to work together as the elections of 1992 approached, and he had made very some contributions to us as ministers, as a minister during those 3 parliaments. It is the find his loss is something that we could not easily replace it, and we accept the condolences and their appreciation for his contribution to the assembly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. This item on the minor proceedings is on the Paddle House. By the media, you've only just made 2 references to the Chronicle just now and another and iNews. But in today's edition of the Guyana Times, we have been assailed by these headlines. Speaker upbraids AP and UMP for personal attack on Posada. And that attack was that I was disrespectful and made disparaging references to the family of our minister of Posada. Of course, I reject this out of hand. But so, you know, since the 16th century, our right to speech in this parliament has been protected. And it seems that attempts are being made to sow seeds of this. This is accurate, this is obviously inaccurate, this article. And it libels me. And I don't have a problem filing in the morning $100 million for life. But this comes in the same outfit that has multiple allocations. Because it was on 28, channel 28 also. And I take it serious umbrage at this. And it follows hard on the heels of Chronicle itself. And they published their retraction, but I don't feel that that's enough for me, and I'll deal with that. But nothing like this occurred. There was no allegation leveled against me in this honorable house yesterday. Because if an allegation was leveled against me, I would have had a right to be heard in response. And what I believe happened was that the Honorable Speaker word family, and you probably thought that was, you know, that you should interject at this stage before. But there was no question of my telling the honorable member who I've never had a problem with him. I don't have a problem with anybody on the side of the house. Anything about his family. For example, it could have been Robert has a nice family because the ward's preceding family were the third. But we can't have when we proceed in this house, we can't have certain elements taking what we say in this house and distorting it for the Sunday papers. And the speaker never addressed me on this man because I would have had the right to be heard. After my presentation, the honorable member obviously was taking issue with the question of nepotism and corruption. And I had the impression he was thinking that I had attacked him. And I said, look, I never said anything about you. I never reported anything about you or your family. But he didn't, I don't know why he responded like that. That's what I said. I never, because I had the impression he thought I was So there was no question. I think, Mr. Speaker, if I had done something like that, Mr. Prasad would have leveled the accusation against me on the charge. And the charge would have had to come. But as I said, the Chronicle has been doing this. They tried to criminal aspersions on me. And on that side of the house, I think Chronicle could look at of that nature. So they can't come to me. They can't come to me and I'm going to deal with it. I am saying with respect that I reject this out of hand and I'm asking for the protection of this honorable house. That this is a wholly inaccurate article. Wholly inaccurate because no allegation was leveled against me and you never put a charge for me to answer.
Honourable members, it is an offence of privilege to take members' words and twist them or change the content or context. However, last evening, I did see the honourable member, Mr. Prasad, demonstrating about, did you have a problem with my family? I think those were the words that he used. But indeed, I did not hear and had not heard Mr. Williams say anything, but it would appear that something happened, and I sought to nip in the bud anything that wanted to tend towards the direction of our families. And Mr. Williams was not cited, there was no allegation leveled against him, but it would appear that there was some banter to which I wanted to bring to a halt. I have not been able to study the article, but Mr. Williams, as a member of the House, you do have rights which you may wish to invoke, but I have not seen the article per se, but I will read it. And as I said, I've already had cause to deal with something pertaining to Mr. Scott, who I believe was wrongfully and perhaps wrongfully treated. So, members, let us understand that we have responsibilities, and I wish to turn to the press. I see a sea of cameras here and everywhere, and you are here as a matter of privilege. And the House has powers to take action if it feels that you are abusing that privilege. What it is you want to show or change people's words or context. Maybe you may wish to ask Mr. Williams' view or Mr. Prasad his view of what happened. But let us be very, very, very careful. We recognize the right of your right to report and to report, but it must be done fairly and accurately. If not, you will invite the coercive powers of this Parliament onto you. Thank you very much, honourable members. Mr. Prasad, sir.
Done with your leave, sir. But it should not deal with a controversial matter or a matter that has to be debated. Mr. Williams has opened this door, opens the issue for controversy and debate, because we have to now speak about what exactly happened yesterday. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we all sat here and heard what was said by Mr. Williams. We all heard, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Minister response and seeking your intervention to protect him and his family. And you intervened, sir, to also stop Mr. Williams from going in that direction. I have not had the time to see what Chronicle said, We are walking, Mr. Speaker, on very icy and thin ice in this parliament. If every time we're coming here, we're coming to castigate the press. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you are allowing this in the House, we will then bring. We have been very thick-skinned about the kind of reporting in certain media houses, and we've dealt with it outside of this House in the way we thought best. But we can also do what the opposition is doing, is every day waste time in this House discussing what certain media houses are doing. And so we will then use this privilege that you have so adequately allowed. Also, because we are also victims on this side of the House for misrepresentation, for misreporting by several media houses. So, Mr. Speaker, as you open the door, I therefore, the government side takes the cue, and it will now be presenting to you for the rest of the debate any such instances where we feel that we've been misrepresented, misquoted, etc. But in relation to personal explanations, I believe that Mr. Williams' personal explanation is not one understanding orders that should have been entertained. It's controversial and it's open for debate.
Thank you. A member, if he or she feels aggrieved by anything, may raise it on the personal explanations. And if it is that the government feels that there are media houses that are impugning it, it has the right to come every day. Because we're going to do this until we get it right. The press has no right to come on either side and say to any member of this house, whether he is a minister or she is an ordinary member. Or I'm encouraging you to keep bringing this up, because we have to come to a right place in this country where we can't say and do anything we want about people, and it happens on both sides, and it has to end. You can't say that a member is accused of destroying mining is destroying the country and raping when he never said so, and have quotation marks quoting him. That's a blatant untruth. And I, as Speaker, can't sit silently if a member protests and allow it to happen. And so if any member of the government feels offended by any media house, I'm encouraging them, in fact, to come forward, and personal explanations are, in my view, the appropriate place. Mr. Prasad, honourable member.
The honourable member's comment was, in fact, offending. That's why I paused, and I wanted to seek from him a clarification, because, as you have rightfully defined, there are certain no-goes in this parliament. And anyone who comes after my family, my ethnicity, my religion, I will start very firmly defend and reject. And I felt offended at that time by the honourable member's comments. If perhaps you did not hear, but I heard, and the others who heard that. And I wish to thank you for your intervention and your protection at that point in time.
Remember that, Mr. Williams, you have given an explanation. We can bring a substantive motion, but
I'm telling you.
Mr. Williams, in the greatest of respect, ask the make for the explanation. I allow it. A substantive motion may be brought when this debate is over, and we can discuss it. But we're not going to start out having a debate this afternoon on this part.
Request to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on desperate matters of urgent public importance. Motions relating to the business or sitting of the National Assembly.
Honourable members, should we write it? What should we do? Your clerk is attempting to. The clerk is attempting. Mr. Williams, what is going on?
It's telling me I lied across the eye. I didn't order any equipment. I didn't receive help. I never got all members. Where is your name is there? You are I publish it.
You're ridiculous. Ridiculous.
reduction of bills, public business, government's business.
The minister's presentation has outlined once again that several sectors have registered growth. It also tells us that in the areas of forestry, diamond and quarrying, we have experienced negative growth. More significantly, sir, the sugar industry, despite the injection of billions of dollars into the Skeldon factory and a further $4 billion in 2012 into the management of Gaisuco, is ailing. The several attempts and promises made to turn around this sector have failed miserably, and Guyanese taxpayers have had to bear the burden for yet another year. Mr. Speaker, at the end of the debate on the 2012 national budget and passing of the several proposed appropriations, there was an undertaking by the government to continue talks with the combined opposition on several issues. The discussions which began before and continued during the passing of the 2012 estimates came abruptly to an end. We are now debating another budget presentation with no hint of the fulfillment of those promises. This fact notwithstanding, Finance must be commended for their work in preparing this 2013 budget, as they are not responsible for the political blunders of this administration. I note that many non-traditional sectors have recorded increased growth. Further, sir, the increase of 20.8% of tax persons is also heartening. It is obvious that Guyanese are recognizing their obligation to contribute to the national purse. Despite all of the above, I am disappointed with other aspects of this 2013 budget. Mr. Speaker, I am disappointed, sir, listed in the schedule to Article 222A. The minister also failed to utilize this opportunity, sir, to address personal income tax in a real way. Why, Mr. Minister, is personal income tax and the same as corporation tax? Perhaps, Mr. Minister, you should inform the workers about the reasons why the government is paying the 7.2% employer contribution to the National Insurance Scheme, as outlined in paragraph 6.13 on page 63. Address the increasing disparities between the haves and the have-not within our society. He failed to address his plans for job creation and the employed poor. Mr. Speaker, he also failed to utilize this opportunity to address the spiraling cost of living and the reduction of tax. To address the payment of $15,000 to old age pensioners as promised last year, of which $10,000 was given in 2012 as an interim. Mr. Speaker, I speak to this 2013 budget as a member of the opposition, whose mandate is to examine it with a critical eye, outline its deficiencies in meeting the needs of our people, and where possible, make proposals. With this objective in mind, sir, I wish to state categorically that having examined this budget, I have found it to be very anti-poor. After registering several consecutive years of growth as stated by the Minister of Finance, our government has failed to share the wealth of the nation with those in our midst that fall within the poverty bracket or or are falling through the cracks. I am conscious that those in government who sit at the table will fail to see the many that wait upon the crumbs like Lazarus. Nevertheless, it is obvious that this 2013 budget, like others, continues to keep our working poor unemployed and unemployable in a state of poverty. The minister on page 4 in the penultimate sentence states, and I quote, "Prices for food commodities generally ended 2012 higher than 1 year ago," end of quote. And further on page 74, the consumer price index shows a 10% increase in food over the previous year, and also a 10.3% increase in medical and personal care. This critical situation begs the question, how are the people in the aforementioned bracket coping? And what measures have been put in place to ease the pressure on the impoverished? Food prices, sir. Mr. Speaker, the Millennium Development Goals Report 2012 remains a global challenge. The most recent report on hunger estimates that in the developing regions, children living in rural areas are almost twice as likely to be under. It shows, sir, that despite a constant increase in budgetary allocation to our health sector, we have been unable to decrease the number of low birth weight babies, to reduce the number of severely malnourished, and to significantly reduce those who are moderately malnourished. Mr. Speaker, the Grow More campaign, despite the Grow More campaign, the cost of food items continues to rise. Plantains are now $100 to $200 per pound. Edibles, $120 to $160 per pound. Sweet potatoes, $140 to $160 per pound. And sir, chicken foot is $300 per pound. Chicken neck is $200 per pound. And if we look at the cost for chicken at $380, beef for $460, and saltfish, sir, $560 to $600 per pound. Sugar is $90 per pound, and flour, sir, $120 per pound. All these commodities, except flour, are grown, reared, and produced locally, sir. Let's imagine a policeman taking home a net salary of $51,000 per month. You're living at Parliamentary Harmony and stationed at Albertown Police Station. Your wife, an untrained teacher on the TQM1 scale, receives a net salary of $58,000 per month and has 2 children attending high school in Georgetown and a mortgage payment of $47,000 per month. I am sure, Mr. Speaker, this family would like to be told how they can overcome the challenges they face daily. Despite these challenges, the minister tells the poor within our midst that Budget 2013 is presented under the theme Overcoming Challenges Together, Accelerating Gains for Guyana. enough collateral to have another loan. Hence, they must repay the first loan before obtaining another. Meanwhile, however, they are receiving several letters threatening them that their land will be taken away. Many of the persons who are asked to pay these sums, Mr. Speaker, are policemen and women, clerks, ordinary public servants, domestic helpers, vendors and teachers, to name a few. Their salaries range from $35,000 to $86,000 per month. Minister Ali, the honorable member, can attest to the several persons for whom representation is made daily to his office. Despite talks about establishing an information center to protect those who are first-time builders from unscrupulous contractors and those posing as contractors and sawmillers, to date, this has not materialized. This situation has resulted in many single parents and first-time builders being left at the mercies of these devious con artists. There has been much talk and propaganda about the thousands of house lots being allocated. But what provision is being made for the very poor who cannot afford to purchase those house lots? We have not heard to date any plans by the government to build homes for those persons who would never be in a position to purchase land, much less build their own home. What about arrangements for building of low-income housing schemes, as was done in the past? Areas such as North Rhine-Veld, Gambleville, Charleville Ridley scheme, Tupper in New Amsterdam, and Wisrock in Linden housing scheme. Wisrock housing scheme in Linden are useful examples. Mr. Speaker, we cannot behave as though these people do not exist. For exist they do, and every effort must be made to address their concerns. I can assure this House that the saying, "Not everything that glitters is gold," can be otherwise worded. Not every building with 4 walls and a roof means that it is a completed house. These ministers are but a few of the many challenges which your government must seek to address so that this group in our society can overcome their challenges. Value-added tax. Mr. Speaker, during the 2012 budget debate, a Partnership for National Unity asked that VAT be reduced by 2% in 2012 and a further 2% in 2013. This was refused by the government, who continued to insist that a reduction of VAT would not help the poor. Mr. Speaker, it is our belief that an increase in the spending power of the poor will improve the quality of life as well as that of their offspring. More money means more food available. More food available means children can concentrate in class. More money means payment for transportation, for work and school, and less absenteeism. Regular attendance at school means a chance of acquiring an education. Acquiring an education, sir, means more employable persons and an opportunity to come out of poverty and enjoy a better quality of life. Indeed, more disposable income ensures a better standard of living for the family as a whole. Mr. Speaker, on page 11, paragraph 3.22, the minister indicated that government revenue inflows grew by 7% to $129.4 billion. Of Of these inflows, 91.5% represented tax revenue collections, of which VAT and excise tax collections increased by 7.2% to $56.8 billion. Mr. Speaker, had the government accepted APNU's proposal to reduce VAT by 2% or $1.14 billion, it would have resulted in an increase in attendance at our schools, more food on the table, and more houses completed. Indeed, it would have had a direct impact on the ability of families to improve their lives. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the government must be aware that a large part of home building loans goes towards VAT. Persons building must pay VAT on items purchased. Just an example, purchase of 648 feet of corrugated sheets cost $199,422 plus $31,903 in VAT. Purchase of 152 lengths of steel cost $127,960 plus $19,486 in VAT. The purchase of 1,280 feet of lumber cost $230,400 plus $36,864 in VAT. On these three items, sir, the consumer must pay the cost of $8,000 to $9,253 value-added tax. Mr. Speaker, with a 2% reduction, the consumer would have had available thousands of dollars to accelerate their building program. That is what the government refused to give to the poor. Allow me therefore, sir, to read to the minister his own words on page 2, paragraph 1.6 of his presentation. And I quote, "I urge once again that even after the most vigorous of debates, this House learns to speak more frequently with one voice, inspired only by that which is good for Guyana." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, I trust that the minister would understand that the preacher of the word must be a doer also. I therefore submit, sir, that our proposal of a gradual reduction of VAT by 2% over 2 years would be good for the poor people of Guyana and Guyana as a whole. Would the minister allow us to speak with one voice on this issue before this budget debate ends? We will certainly hear from him. Senior citizens, Mr. Speaker, there is not one member in this House who has not been adorned with thank yous from our senior citizens when they received $10,000 instead of $8,100 during the 2012 budget debate. And likewise, sir, I am certain that our senior citizens welcome the increase of $2,500 more, albeit this is still some $2,500 short of the $15,000 that was proposed by the APNU on the list of negotiations last year and this year. I am at a loss for words, however, sir, that the minister reneged on his promise of $15,000 for old age pensioners this year. $10,000 being an interim payment in 2012. I beg the question of the Minister of Finance. Is it simply because you do not want to see?
Speaker, I believe I heard the Honourable Member accuse me of reneging on a monthly old age pension of $15,000. I wish to state unequivocally that no such promise was ever made either by myself or by the government, and the honourable member is therefore misrepresenting the facts and misleading the nation in relation to
Your Honor, the statement of the member had reneged on a promise.
Here, Doctor. George.
We'll adjourn for 5 minutes.
George.
Go. This far long. I'm going to chew. Far long. Yeah.
He's conscious and he's complaining of some numbness. They said the only complaint we're aware of was influenza, and he used something to come to medication. But I think he's from what has been said from the doctors in the house. He seems to be okay, but he'll have to do some checks. He's gone with Dr. George Norton to the hospital. Thank you.
Testament of fortitude. I'd like to just say that I'd like to thank members for the assistance rendered, particularly the medical practitioners of the government who responded. It is commendable. And I have to remark openly that this is the way we should be living. And to the press for your cooperation, and to members, and we wish the member a speedy recovery. The clerk and I will continue to look to ways to ensuring that the facilities in this house cater for every and any eventuality. We did discuss certain possibilities, but we will obviously have to go back to the drawing board, because I think it was Mr. Reverend Morial only a few evenings ago referenced the possibility of a disaster here. And so we have looked at fire escape, the fire service has been in, we have looked at security, now we have to look at medical. By way of reminder, there are 3 rooms on the mezzanine floor above the members' lounge that can be used for rest and relaxation, and the clerk has control of the key. That any member wishes to spend some time there, please indicate to the clerk. Thank you. Mr. Director, you wish to say?
This is international indeed, particularly to the medical doctors who played a very important role in ensuring Richard's recovery. And I'd like also to, I was about to mention the facilities in the house for emergencies like that. So I'd just like to report that to all the medical practitioners who helped Richard and report his speedy recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, doctors, members, for your attention. Honourable member, I invite now Donald Waller Lawrence to resume, and I am thinking of us taking an early break, perhaps in the food together before 4 we may break, because some of us are still.
Intercede on behalf of the member that Jehovah Jireh, our healer, charge and will bring him back to us in good health. Mr. Speaker, I'm quite aware of the government's attempt to further provide assistance for some of our seniors with the introduction of an old age pension.
Speaker, not promised that gravity of the moment and the evident change in every member's mood given the falling ill of one of us. Permit me, sir, to draw your attention again to the concern that I was expressing just before the very unfortunate medical episode. And I invite you again, sir, to consider asking John Lemon to withdraw.
Thank you for reminding me. Indeed, Honourable Member, I think we were just at that stage when the member had raised a point of order that the words were that he had reneged on a promise, and the Honourable Member saying that no such promise was either made by him and or his government, which he represents. And I believe you were to respond.
Sir, something went wrong if what the minister is proposing is true, because we were informed that during the negotiations, as we began the last budget estimates, that it was indicated that the $10,000 would have been given as an interim to our proposal for $15,000 for English education.
Thank you. Honourable members, very well. I think this is okay, Dr. Singh. What transpired by way of negotiations, we're not sure. We lamented the fact last year that there is no record of these negotiations, and statements made in a negotiation would not be the same or equated on the basis of being promises or undertakings given. There are expectations, and those who were involved in those negotiations know better than those of us who were not what transpired. But if the minister is saying that he made no such undertaking or promise, I believe that his point of order is in order.
Thank you very much.